Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Neurodivergent Show with me, Imo Folami. This is the Neurodivergent Show where we discuss all things ADHD, all things autism spectrum, all things OCD, all things dyslexia, and everything neurodivergent. Welcome. Um, Neurodivergence simply means being different. Now, we all lose our keys. We all have a little bit of restlessness in us. We all can be, can be a little bit disorganized. But does that affect your day-to-day life? Does that affect you at work? Do people look at you and say, why are you so disorganized? Why can't you be put together? Why do you procrastinate often? Why are you why are you always late to appointments, to meeting? And you're thinking, I'm not trying to do this on purpose. I'm not trying to be late on purpose. I'm not trying to procrastinate on purpose. It's just something that I just do. You probably have what is known as ADHD. You may be diagnosed, you may be undiagnosed, but if you've had people tell you over and over again some of these traits, then you are neurodivergent. You have what is known as ADHD. And who better to let us in on what ADHD is about than someone who got diagnosed very late in her life. I'm going to be bringing a very successful CPA, successful business owner, doing great in the business world. She's also an advocate for the neurodivergent community. She's a life coach. She's somebody who's so passionate about helping others and making lives better. Please join me in welcoming our own Kedra. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear
I'm
me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. I do not know if others can hear you because let's see, do you think your mic is muted maybe?
Let's see. I
Can
don't
you
think so.
can you just say anything? Let's just be sure that your mic is good.
Testing, testing.
All right. So if you're out there and you can hear us, please give us a thumbs up. Please send a wave, say hi, so that we can know that our audio is good, everything is good. Sometimes it's live, and doing live productions like this, we're not sure. So we're going to rely on feedbacks from you to make sure that everything is okay. Thank you. We're getting feedback saying everything is good. We appreciate that. If you're live right now, we want you to give us a thumbs up and go ahead and say hi. Say hi to me. Say hi to our own beautiful Kedra, and make sure you subscribe as well. Hi, Kedra.
Hello and hi
Can
everybody.
can we meet you? Can you hear me? Can we meet you? Okay. I think we're having problem with our network here. Kedra, can we meet you?
Can you meet me?
Yes. Can we meet you? Can you tell us more about yourself?
Thank you. Oh, awesome. So there's different, dialects, and so I wasn't getting what you were asking. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I'm Kedra Flowers. I've been in the business community for many years now, almost 30. I'm telling my age. I'm 53. I have one great son who just is everything, and a grandson that's new. And when I look at my life, starting from very young, I just always, there was something about me that was a little different. And even though I was considered talented and gifted in school, there was always this side behavior problem or behavior issue. And so, whereas now I think people are a little bit more aware, back then they weren't. And so you were just kind of labeled and looked at in a certain way. But I'm happy that I've found the path of understanding that my brain is the way it is. I'm not really big on specific labels, but it is the way that it is. And as long as I can learn to work it the way that it is, things work out. And I hope someone else watching this will find the same.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, so you're successful, in your field. You're doing great. And so others are wondering, why have you decided to share this part of yourself with us? I mean, why? What's What's made you feel like, you know what, I've got a story and I'd like to share it and I hope it blesses others? So why? Tell us why.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I'm naturally an empath, so I pay attention to numbers. 2023, 7, the completion, the number of completion. And I think for me, my life has been a journey of ups and downs, which is probably true for most of us. And in this year, I think more than anything else, because I've built the things that I wanted and made the money that I wanted, achieved the experiences, but there is a message. I was put on this earth, as I believe we all are, with a message and a purpose. And part of my purpose is to be transparent and share my journey. And not only will it help, me, my family, other people's family, but it just helps improve education so that we can understand as a people how much we have, in common. There is no one thought or
Hmm.
one way. Yeah.
Okay. So, our listeners out there probably want to know. Some people are like, "Oh, I've heard the term ADHD, ADD before," but uh, I really do not. I mean, I see people. They say they have ADHD. Some of them are hyper. Some of them can be inattentive sometimes. And I'm sure they are wondering, how do we define ADHD? I mean, it's a wide spectrum. So they want to know, what is it about ADHD? Can you define it in your own terms with your own life, and let us in on what ADHD is to you as an individual?
Okay. And so ADD, attention deficit disorder, and then ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, if I said those right, hopefully. But ADD, which is my specific diagnosis, is an I don't want to say an inability to focus,
Mm,
because I can focus, but I can focus on multiple things at a time. And an example right this moment, and I don't know how, because in Instagram it may be very small, but if I look at my background sitting here, I miss everything else that's organized, but I see the piece of paper that's hanging out my little treasure trunk, and I'm like, how did that get hanging out there? So now, from instead of being fully attentive in the show, my brain's going there. And so that's a big part of it for me, is being I really have to work extra hard, at least for me, I feel like, in order to focus and take things from beginning to completion. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I realized, because up until then, I was told, by a pastor once, you just don't have the ability to commit. You have no ability to commit. That's just the problem. So you keep being told, whether it's a teacher or pastor, whoever, people that that there's something wrong with you. And it was later for me in my life, when I had successes in businesses and in creating things. I could think of something and create it in a few months,
mm.
and have it go. But then just as fast, I'd go to something else, and that little toy is left over there. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's for me. And again, that's one reason why I'm not a big subscriber to labels, because if you got 5 of us here, our experiences would all be quite different, probably.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so what I picked from what you said, defining ADHD, is not having the natural ability to, like, focusing doesn't come natural to you. Like, you get distracted. You're like, it's almost like an inability to focus, except you have to consciously do it. Unlike, neurotypicals that can just focus on a task and, be able to complete that task. And you also mentioned something about commitment. And that means not being able to keep at something for a long period, kind of. You're happy to do something, and then after a while you just lose interest and you want to move to the next thing. You also mentioned something about, I know you said something about your pastor saying you just cannot commit, but you said that you are successful in your business, so it's not as though you cannot commit. It's you cannot commit to something that is not as interesting to you, right? And you've done so many things. Like it's like you're an inventor, right? So yours is purposely not to um not continuate it. Yours is probably, starting up something. And so it can be described sometimes by others as inability to commit or follow through on task, when your brain naturally doesn't, it's just not wired to follow through on certain things that does not come natural to you. And I know that some people may dismiss it and say, oh, lack of discipline and lack of, but Kedra is letting us know that that's not the case. That's not the case for some ADHD people who are on the same spectrum as she is. These things are just natural to her. The same way you're able to focus and complete a task is the same way she's not able to focus and complete a task. And that does not make you better than her. It just makes our brain wired differently. Kedra?
Absolutely. And at the time, it really did, it hit me, because you look up to people and you want everybody to think you're great. And so it did hurt me at the time, but then I started over time. I have a thick skin, and I would always say, no, I'm excellent at committing. I commit to not committing. I am so committed to not committing. And that's really true. I'm committed to not committing to something for the sake of committing to it.
Wow.
So I commit to things that are important to me, that are a calling for me. So
Mm.
I am not going to commit to someone else's agenda if it's not from my heart.
And so
Won't do it.
what are the
Yeah.
labels what are the labels you've given? What have people, when they've noticed that about you, what have people said? Like what would have been their thought, like, some of the things you heard, some of the names you probably were called?
Just not able to commit, and being, bad, because I was very short. I was short tempered. I was short. So what looks quite a bit like acting out. And there's a celebrity that's kind of been in the news, and it pulls on my heart, and we're not going to go into names, but I see a lot of me when I was young in her. And I wish I could go and I could, I don't know if I can say the name. I wish I could just go and hug her and say, baby, I was you, and it does get better. Like, you got to understand what's going on.
Right.
But at the end of the day, as you grow up, you learn. But I've been called a lot, and in relationships. I can have relationships when they work, then they work. But I'm not going to commit for the sake of committing to a relationship that's not working. And so I've actually been, married and divorced 5 times. 5. And so I remember a mentor said to me, well, let's look at that and see why they didn't work. And my response to her is that I said, I didn't say they didn't work. And her face just looked like, wait, what? You were divorced. They didn't work. No, they're still all here. As a matter of fact, 2 of them passed in the last year, and there was some mental illness, but we had actually had the conversation about doing a book on, like, why me? Because there are, women who never get married. And what my neighbor said, hey, how did you get 5 men to propose? I said, we'll do a book. And I was asking each husband to do a chapter. So probably we'll still do it with the remaining 3, to do a chapter about what it was. But here's the thing. I can disconnect, or we can choose to disconnect as human beings and still love each other and still support each other and still be friends. It doesn't, I've never been sued for alimony. It's none of that. Just, so it's a really different way of think. It's just a different way of thinking or being. It's the way my brain is wired. It just
So
simply is.
what do
Yeah.
you say to somebody who has ADHD, and
Mhm.
it's because we're just trying to educate people, and sometimes we have to, in order to help them understand, we have to you know voice out their thoughts, right? So that they can understand what you're saying. What do you say to somebody who's got ADHD, is still in a marriage and still keeping the marriage going, and saying that, oh no, it's a matter of your choice, it's not ADHD specified and stuff? What do you have to say to that person, especially for those that have got ADHD, or for those that say, oh yes, I know someone who's got ADHD and they're still, doing some things? What would you say to people like that?
Yeah. So that I think that's why the word I can't even say it, neurodiversity is a great word, because we're all different. So just because I have or was diagnosed with ADD doesn't mean that someone or my neighbor who has the same diagnosis is exactly the same. And it really is there is a factor of choice there. I wasn't divorced because I had ADD. As a matter of fact, I didn't know on the first three. I did not know at that time. So it wasn't necessarily that, but the way that my brain works is that I am not going to stay. For me, what it feels like, and that's kind of easier for me to explain, is monotony. I'm just, if it's like telling me stand against the wall and just stand, because that's what you're supposed to do. Just
Mm,
stand. Don't talk, don't speak, just stand.
absolutely.
That doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't
This
work for me.
absolutely. This is your story and this is your life. And it really wouldn't matter. I mean, this is your story that you're using, you're choosing to share with us, and this is how you are living your life. I mean, we have a right to live our life. No apologies to people, and this is what's working for you. And I can see some people already rolling their eyes and saying,
Oh yeah.
ah, blah,
Oh,
blah, blah. I can see that already happening. But I'm just going to encourage and say, let's just live and let live. Sometimes this is what's happening with people in their lives, and it's working for them in certain ways. Some people in a way are in marriages that are very loveless and frustrating. So it's going to be your choice eventually what you want to do and how you want to live your life. Okay. So let's now go back to the beginning. Okay. You
okay.
mentioned something about you being the kid getting straight A's, but just the very getting into trouble and things. What was that like for you? I know during your time, of course, like you said, there wasn't like ADHD diagnosis and stuff, but what was growing up like for you? When did you begin to notice that, oh, I'm different, oh, I'm not acting like my friends, or the things people say and stuff? But before you answer the question, please, if you're live, I want you to please leave us a comment, okay? I want you to say hi to us. Just say hello. You can contribute to the show, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to, you can question things. I mean, that's why we're here. Kedra has put herself out there so that she can answer your question. So even if there's some things you disagree with, you can actually, that's why we have an open conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. So say hi, say hello, drop your contribution, your questions in the comment, and we'll take it. And if you want to be anonymous, feel free to just put anonymous in front of your, just make the first word anonymous so I don't put it on the screen and all. Okay. Very soon, we're going to be opening the phone line so that you can call in directly and ask questions. But in the meantime, can you go ahead, Kedra, and tell us what growing up was like for you?
Let's see. So growing up, I would say the biggest thing when I look back with regard to, to this topic is just the inability um, to kind of go with the flow when it came to following instructions and things like that. I think I would get into fights. I would just things that were not what the rule book said that you should be doing at that time. And
Why would you get into fights? Can you give us instances of some of the things that made you
oh,
get?
yeah, you were liking my boyfriend, or you said something I didn't like. It was just really, yeah. I don't, it was before the whole B word came out, but if it were out, and maybe it was, I probably was called it, and I did not know how to be different.
So
Right.
know
Yeah.
that the cause may have been somebody snatching something or somebody taking something away from you, and that would have been the reason for the fight. But what do you think would have been the root for that? Would you have termed it, because you probably didn't know, would you have said maybe things like impulsivity, or just, some underlying things that just made you like get into fights that maybe ADHD related, even if what we can see is what somebody did or what somebody's not doing? But would you think that there also is some underlying, because some parents may be wondering, why is my kid getting into fights? Why is my kid, and then they're seeing the fight, but we are not going back to the basics, like the background, and to check what's going on, like the underlying factor behind why somebody is acting up.
Absolutely. And you know what? You've been in this conversation for, a bit longer than me. I'm just kind of coming back to it, and not on a broad scale, but impulsivity is absolutely what it was. And oftentimes, had I had the ability to have a little bit more forethought, there would be a better way to deal with a lot of things. And so, yes, definitely impulsivity.
Yeah. So if you're wondering if you have ADHD, or somebody has ADHD, we've mentioned a couple things that Kedra has that may also, we're not trying to diagnose you here, but we're saying if you also, you struggle with things like this, then you may likely have ADHD, ADD, we've talked about not following through on certain things. We've talked about procrastination. We've talked about impulsivity. We've talked about lack of commitment, which can also be termed as not following through and all. We also mentioned some of our strengths, because sometimes when we're discussing neurodiversity, ADHD, autism, and things, many times we always talk about the struggles, but we tend to overlook the strength. So, in as much as we're going to be talking, or focusing a lot on the on some of the weaknesses, struggles, maybe we're also going to be mentioning strength, because the strength you guys have, it's almost second to none. You've mentioned things about creating. We're going to get into your creativity, your mind, getting straight A's, probably not even studying to get straight A's. So that's a strength. Um, so the more you talk, the more we'll pick out some of the struggles, some of the strengths someone that has ADHD may have, and how to harness that strength, and how to help with some of the struggles. So go ahead, Kedra.
Yeah, and I was going to say the strengths are just amazing, and I've learned to appreciate them today, and I appreciate them when I see them in young kids as well. The very thing, and there's a word, inhibition, that kind of stops you from that impulsivity, is often the same thing that stops you from stepping out and starting that business, or coming up with that great new idea that's going to change the entire world. Elon Musk, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's those things that, if we force everyone to fit within the lane of neurotypical, we lose those things. Think about that. And so for me, as you can see, it lights me up when I think about the creativity. I have ideas. I remember as a child, I thought, I just want to get paid to think. I just want to get paid to come up with business ideas, because I would have dreams of songs in my sleep. So one of my husbands was a singer. So, things like that. Like, it's amazing. It's almost like you're tapping into, which you're tapping into a realm that doesn't fit within the typical. And it's just the way our brains work. It's not extra work. We don't have to, or at least for me. And like I said, we're all different. But for me, yeah, the creativity is huge. The ability not to hold a grudge, I think, has always been a unique thing. I get angry, I'm impulsive, and I might throw a pin at you. Not anymore, but back then, I might throw a pin. But then after lunch, I'm fine, and let's go. I'm so sorry I did that. Because it was just the inability to stop that in mid motion. Impulsivity is exactly what that was. That's it. Also, to solve problems. And one of the big things what I do is I negotiate IRS debt and tax debt and offers of settlement and things like that. And I'm able to read the legislation, read the law, read the rules and procedures, and see things that the average person doing a tax return would never see. And it makes things available and options available that other people don't see, that is justified. I'm not making it up. I'm not creating it, but I'm just seeing it in the established law and in the structure that's there. Yeah. So
So we've mentioned so many things. many struggles, many strengths. I hope you're picking on that, and I hope if you have someone who's got ADHD, you're understanding their thought process, understanding that, especially when they're little, because I know I heard you say some of the things you've outgrown, and we're going to get into what made you feel like, oh, um, I have to stop doing this. I have to. My struggles. I know that I struggle in this area, so maybe get help and things like that. We're going to get into that. But we want to say, Sarah is saying, hey, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out. And then we have another person just giving us a dots. I guess that's hi. We'll take it. Thank you. If you're online, please say hi to Kedra, hi to me. If you have something you want to share, if you have something you disagree with, let's have this discussion, open discussion. Let's talk about it. Something you want to contribute, you have something you've done or somebody, just anything. Please do share with us. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so we've discussed Kedra as a little girl. We want to discuss Kedra now. Now, when did you? I know when you were little, you just. Hey, Yvonne says, "Hi, Kedra. You two are awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for reaching out." Okay, so we've discussed you as a little girl. We've discussed some of your struggles. Okay, so how did you get A's? Let's just discuss that because I don't know how you all read, don't study and get A's. It's amazing. So I'm studying for hours and I'm like, okay, we have to do this. But y'all just come. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not cool. This is so not fair. Can you even explain it maybe?
No, it's
No.
the way my brain works. As a matter of fact, in college, I would remember, trying to study. I could not focus and stop my brain to study because there's too much going on. There's a party, I'm in a sorority, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I wouldn't. And then the test would be at 9 a.m. and I'd do everything that night. And then I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and I go and read through all the notes from the 2 weeks or whatever time and go in there and do it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. If you're a mom, you've got ADHD kid, know that you would have those challenges, but also understand those strengths and help that kid in that line. Your kid may not be like every other kid, but your kid may be one of the smartest kids. Not comparing your kid to the other siblings, but very smart. So you can see, all you can try to focus on some of those things, and appreciate that kid for some of the strengths the kid brings, and also help the kid work on the challenges, which we're going to be talking about now. So let's discuss challenges. Some of your struggles. You mentioned something about let's talk about, was that the whole of high school for you, just getting into fights, or did you at some point look and say, "Oh, let me not do this anymore"? What was that cycle like for you?
Yeah. There was a teacher, and actually it was a substitute teacher one day that came in, and I think I'd been in school suspension or whatever for like 7 days or something. And then I came back and she was there, and they have whatever information they have about you. And she kept me and she talked to me after class and she just kind of explained, like, what do you want to be? What is it that you want? Why are you fighting? Why are you angry? And I don't remember the exact conversation, and I don't even remember the teacher's name because I would love to find her today. And she would love to find me today, I tell you, because there's so much gratitude there. But it literally changed my life. Now, not immediately, because she planted the seed that said, okay, the outcome that I want this to be is not the path I'm going. And I was going to say that with what you just said, I thought about when you have children that are that way or that are special, you have to identify what works for them. What works for me is the outcome. So the outcome is I need to pass this test. I'm in grad school. I need to have at least a 3.5. I have a 3.75. I'd like a 4.0, whatever. But the outcome was it. And so I was always going to do what I needed to do to have that outcome. But it was rarely, if ever, going to look like what a neurotypical would do for the same outcome. if that makes sense.
It
Right.
does.
So I worked full time while I was in school, just all of those things. My first job was 12
Wow.
years old, and I worked
Wow.
every year since then. And my first W-2 job was at 13. Yeah. And I told a little fib to get it. So, that
Wow.
made a big part of it too. I don't know. But
Oh, wow. That is very impressive. You having to work, that early. And so thank you for sharing that. So ADHD wasn't really common while you were growing up. I
no.
know, and we've discussed high school and stuff, but at what point did you just sit down and look around and say, I think I'm kind of different, like really, really, really different. Um, and I have something like there is like a something neurological going on with me. At what point, at what age did it dawn on you? Or
You know,
at the age exactly, but at what time? Like what time in your life?
Yeah. So I would say I started noticing things in my 30s, my mid 30s, when I really got active in my career, had my office and was doing that. And every office I had was in an office building. So as clients would come in and they see the conference room and everything's beautiful and whatever, but they would really hardly ever, unless they were super close, come into my office space, because my office space would scare the everything out of you. You'd be going, what? How in the? But I knew where everything was, everything. And even, even today, it's interesting because if the housekeeper moves one thing and it's something so random, I'll go, there was a screw that was right to the side of the microwave sitting on the back. I saw it, but I didn't move it, but I remember it was there, but I didn't know what it went to. And so now I figured out what it goes to, and I went back to get it and it's not there. And she's like, I didn't see a screw,
Mm,
and here we go, so it's that kind of stuff. But then, we had a rule, we learned how to work, and that's it, finding how your brain works, and then being able to communicate that with someone else that you're working close by, whether it's an employee or whoever, so that they understand how your brain works. And once they get it, it's just like communication. And so we learned that when she sees anything, if she's going to push it off the counter, it's going to go in the drawer or cabinet right below where it is. So
mm,
if I go looking for something, it's not there, I know to look down and there it is. So
right.
that, those kinds of things, but just understanding the outcome and how to help your back. So you can see ADD, I'm flipping how I'm doing it right now. I'm not trying to, but I am.
When
But
I ADHD, ADD on the show, I kind of like the more I spend time with you, the more I've learned to appreciate you and understand just the way you just like understand you a little bit. So sometimes I'm smiling because I know, oh, this is ADHD, and I'm smiling because oh, this is neurotypical too, so we're just going back and forth. And I'm like, okay, we will get to where we're going to. If you're just joining us, this is the Neurodivergent Show. I am Imo Folami, and my guest here is Kedra. Today we're discussing being diagnosed at 43. And so what now? We are going back to the beginning before a diagnosis and after a diagnosis. What has life been like for her? Kedra, when you mentioned your office being, things being all over the place, and you like it like that because that's how you function. I picked something from what you just said because sometimes it's like we already have this definition of how things are supposed to be. Somebody that walks into your office will probably call you things like ruffian or disorganized, but that is your normal. And really, we have to get to a point where we let people have their normal. It may not be the normal, dictionary normal as it is defined, but the way people are wired is different. And we should, as a society, almost give room and let people be themselves. Like you said, you have a conference room where you attend to your clients and stuff. And should you decide to have your office, your space, the way your mind is, that's okay too. That there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And we should maybe desist with the names and stuff. I'm saying this to say if you have a kid who looks like that, everything is all over the place. I know you may be tempted or the logical thing would be to say, you're too rough, you're a ruffian, you are this. And I'm not saying that the kids should not clean up or something. I'm just saying maybe sometimes that's just their space. And I bet my husband is going to disagree with this because he's like, no, 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 no. Everywhere everywhere has to be neat. And I'm like, I like everywhere being neat, but sometimes let things just be there. Let it just be there. I wish you would come on the show now and come and interrupt me. But sometimes people are that's like their normal. Even if your own normal is everything is arranged, some people's normal is everything is in different places. And that too is okay. It's all right. If you're just joining us, or even if you've been here before, please, would like you to say hi to us, would like you to drop in your contributions, your questions. Kedra is happy to answer whatever question you have. And at this time, we're going to be opening the phone lines so that y'all can call us and share your thoughts, okay? The number to call is 817-935-8734. Again, the number to call is 817-935-8734. And as soon as you do, you can call us and remain anonymous. That's okay. Here is a safe space. We want you to be yourself, and we want you to, be able to be free to share or contribute in whatever way you want to. Okay, so now we've talked about your childhood. We've discussed you growing up, understanding at some point like, oh, that you're different. So I know that you have certain struggles, I would say, because the truth is we all struggle in different ways. That's it. That's the world. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. So, but there's some things that does not fit in a neurotypical world. And in order to fit well in a typical world, in order to succeed in a typical world or in a neurotypical world, there are certain things neurodivergent people must change or must get help with, something like that. Not because it's necessarily abnormal, but just because in order to cope well in the world today that is not really made for you, you have to tweak certain things. You have to come up higher, at certain things. So what are those things and how did you help? How did that help you? Because to succeed today, definitely, of course, you had to, commit to something. You had to, even if it may not be natural, or it could be natural because you found something you love, but what about other struggles and how were you able to maybe adjust a little bit in order to cope in today's world?
Yeah, so I found ways that allowed me to overcome what I consider to be weaknesses that impaired my ability to reach the outcome I want. So I'll give you an example. Today's podcast, I set multiple alarms on my phone. There's an alarm reminding me in general, there's a podcast tonight. Then there may be another alarm later that says, hey, time to get dressed for the podcast. Then there's a 5 minutes before you need to log into the podcast, and I do this on an iPhone, just little things. And for many years, I had to do that for my work appointments as well. However, now there's a little app called Calendly, which is from the gods. And I'll tell you because it will send, I can set text messages to send a text 30 minutes before the meeting, 5 minutes before the meeting. So I don't miss meetings or I make meetings on time and things like that. Just simply remembering things that are not business. And that's really where today, I guess if there's any, things that I still see are things that are not part of my business because I've been doing this almost 30 years. So I kind of got that down. And if you're wondering why everything looks so organized now in my office and my home, is because we're a paperless company. So we don't have to have all the stuff everywhere. But if you went through my computer system, you might not be able to find, because the way I structure everything is a little different. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I've heard you say is, in order to get organized, you need like a calendar system application of some sort, just so that it can help you stay on task, help you stay on schedule. If you have ADHD, diagnosed or not diagnosed, or you suspect you do, or you have kids that do, you may want to start including that into your everyday life or your kids' everyday life, every step of the way, setting calendars to remind you. Because One of the things with ADHD also, I do not know if you share the same, struggle, is forgetfulness. Just not because, we all forget, of course, everyone forgets, but with ADHD people, it's just blank out of their mind. Like they just like I've had people, my brother, many people just tell me,
It's
I
gone.
forgot. And that's the truth. Like it's just someone just took an eraser and wiped it out of their mind, and that's it. It's gone. Whatever it is, a project, a this, a that, it's just gone. Do you feel the same way too?
Absolutely. I almost could stand up and shout. Like that is so exactly what it is, literally gone. And
Mm.
until something brings it back. And so what I teach in coaching, and this is for even neurotypicals, is you've got to put things in existence, and that has come from my ADD brain, where there needs to be a calendar and there needs to be reminders, and I have to actually have things to help bring things back to my remembrance in certain cases. So yes, absolutely. It's gone. So you
Eh,
have to do it. And
oh,
I'll tell you one other thing, Emo. In my rooms, in my and here, well, you can't see it here, but I have whiteboards even in my bedroom that have just little things. I have printed charts that say be intentional, be resourceful, focus on this. Just that's there every day, so I continue to keep going in the same direction, little mantras and things like that.
I
Yeah.
like absolutely. You know what someone is saying? This person says, Emo, what an excuse. You know, when we discussed how normal, that's my husband actually, is that shout out to you, my love, is saying that's an excuse. That's not an excuse, my darling. It's just somehow, sometimes the way my brain is wired is just leave that book there. It's not perfect, but please just leave. That's my normal. It's not your normal, my love. It's my normal. And I know that I'm neurodivergent to a certain extent. And he's also he says lies. Not lies. Absolutely not. That's my normal. Leave my book where it is. It is on the shelf today. It's somewhere. So just leave it because I know where it is. And if you move it, I'm like, where did you put my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my like? It's somewhere. Arrange. Don't arrange it. Arrange it is not normal sometimes. Sometimes just I don't know. It says Kedra. It says Kedra. She's trying to hide. I'm not. I'm not. Sarah is also in on this. Sarah is laughing. You should see my husband. Like before, all my documents, everything is gone. I just don't like it's gone. Sometimes I just look at him. It's like, I know you're watching me. He's about to throw everything out. Everything goes into the garbage. Before I turn, he's thrown it out. He's got OCD, by the way. So
Yeah.
that's another conversation for another day. All right, the number to call is let me put it on the screen so that you all can see it, and please call us in if you have questions, comments, and things you want to share, you have contributions, please go ahead and do that. 817-935-8734. 817 I have comments here. We're going to take them soon. 817-935-8734. Okay, Kedra. So we want to quickly talk about medications, right? I know
Yeah.
that some people that have ADHD, ADD take medications. What do you, medications? What has it been like for you? Did you try taking medications? Did it work for you? Talk to us about medications and ADHD for you.
Okay. And this actually tags on to the answer to the question of what did I see that made me start going, I'm different. So with my office is really where it impacted me, because when I had employees, if they had to go and find something in my office, I'm at a hearing, I'm at the IRS office, and I'm like, go in there. I need you to pull this file. And they're like, it's not in the file. No, it's in my office under the chair. Pull up the mat, go under, it's like a whole treasure hunt. And I thought, but I knew exactly where it was, right? And God forbid they didn't see it. Now I have to rethink all, so anyway, but that's what led me down the road. So My doctor diagnosed me and prescribed me at the time. I'm
Wait, we'll,
sorry.
we'll get into medication. Why 43? Why did it take you that long to get diagnosed? Let's start there first.
Because I think that the year that was the year that I moved from the office building structure where my office is in the back and everything else is in the front, and I moved to a what is it called, shopping center storefront type location. So like you walk in, you park, and you walk in, and the front of the office was completely glass, so
Hmm.
you see in the office, but you and then my office was, the wall between my office and the front was glass, so everyone could see. And it wasn't like it was, it wasn't, I don't want to, it wasn't hoarding, but it just was papers everywhere. And I'd be going, well, it's just a judgment. No one ever actually said it, but it was my own insecurity. And I said, I've got to, what is this? Because I knew it was not, it
Because
wasn't that something's wrong with me, but it's
it
not
wasn't
typical. It's
typical.
not normal. Hmm?
It wasn't typical.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, way back then we called typical normal. It wasn't normal, and so my doctor diagnosed me and said, "I want you to try this medication," and that was Adderall. And almost immediately, I don't know, maybe within a week of taking that, I was organizing. And what I noticed is everything I did one thing at a time.
Mm.
And so it was like, oh, I'm working this file. I'm done. Put it away. And and it just was. My brain was like 1, 2, 3. It just was going, and everything was quiet. And I went through the day, and it just seemed to work.
Mm.
And so I probably took that medication 2 or 3 years, I would say. And then at some point, I maybe forgot about it. Like I was like, I don't have it anymore. Everything's working. I don't know. I just stopped. And but in retrospect, I do know that that was a period of time where I experienced somewhat stability, but much less growth than I might normally experience, because the ideas weren't, to me, and other people may argue this, they did not flow like they would. They did not interrupt what I was doing. And most of my best ideas interrupt me right in the middle of trying to get something done. And so
Mm.
what I have to learn to do is write that down so I don't lose it and forget it, and then either go back. And then as I progressed, at that time as well, I started hiring team members. And so they can do the things that I'm not as good at, like filing and whatever. So I didn't feel it as much. And so that, yeah.
That is very interesting, though. And this is when you know things like ADHD and some of those things are real. You started taking medication, or you started doing something, medication, and now that's what you took now. You started taking medication, and it kind of calmed you. It calmed you. Those areas, those parts of your brain that probably did not develop the way a typical person's brain would develop, had those supplements, and those supplements helped you to stay organized, be organized. But on the downside also, I know you've mentioned this to me. You said it looked like, you know, your creativity was turned down, like the volume in your brain was turned down. And what we're saying is you're being organized, you're doing this, but also your creativity, the fact, the spontaneity, you had, just the ideas, they just didn't flow as much. So I know you said you also forgot to stop taking your medication. Did you? It happens with ADHD. Like I said earlier, you guys just forget. It's blank, it's gone. You just don't remember, and that's it forever. But do you think, like, unconsciously, maybe you felt like you were maybe better off without it? Do you think it was
Um,
you, kind of, in as much as it helped you, to a certain degree? Do you think it limited you to a certain degree as well?
Oh, now looking back, I think definitely it did. At
Mm.
that time, that was not part of the decision. At that time, I probably, I don't know specifically, but I probably just ran out and forgot to just go back and get it, and everything was working, and the issue that was there at first that made me even go seeking help was gone. Everything was organized and good, and I had people to do what they needed to do. And I think that probably was a big part of it. I think that was, but in retrospect, when I look at how my brain works now, and I say often, if it, whether it's an employee, a colleague, whoever, if you've been around me any period of time, you've heard me say the way my brain works. I'm notorious for saying it, and I don't use a label. I say the way my brain works is this. And I actually have, oh my gosh, I wish I had thought, I probably could pull it up. I have a Kedra's user's guide that I provide to every interviewee during the interview process while we're trying to decide to hire. Because I want you to read the user's guide, because if that doesn't work for you, this is not going to be a company that's going to work well, because that's how I'm like the key until I'm gone. It's kind of important that you be able to work in an environment where there is neurodivergence.
You know what? When you said the user's guide, I kind of feel like maybe marriages should actually have that, like something you say before you get married and say, okay, this is me. Are you all in or all out? My husband, was 7 years in, so it's too late for him. He can't run away from me right now. But I feel like that's a good one though. Jokes aside, I feel like letting people know, like unapologetically, like this is who I am. As much as I'm not saying that I have to be rigid and I'm not going to be flexible, because I know that you are not like me. You're definitely never going to be like me. But in order for us to work together, these are the kind of things you need to understand. While I will try to adjust, because I know that you're neurotypical. I will try to adjust and try to be flexible for you, but you also have to understand me so that we can work together. Again, the number to call is 817-935-8734. 817-935-8734. Please call in. Let's know your thoughts. You can contribute. You can share whatever it is that is on your mind. We literally just have a few minutes to go. Sometimes we get calls like after the show or towards the end of the show, and we're unable to answer, and I have to apologize. So please, if you're going to call, now would be a good time to do that. Let's take some of the comments we have here. My husband says, I knew where she was going with those questions. You don't know where I'm going with those questions. Just leave my stuff alone, sir. Leave my stuff alone. Thank you, kind sir. See, Kedra said that's our normal. Just leave us. That's the way it is. Like if it's there, it's there, it's there, then it's cool. But if you just put everything in one spot, it becomes so boring. We're not thinking, we're not. Anyway, Sarah says it's called organized chaos. I love that. Absolutely. It's called organized chaos. It's called organized chaos. Thank you so much. All right. So you've talked about the effect of Adderall medication. And do you ever plan to go back to taking it? When did you stop? How many years has it been? And what has life been like even after taking that? And do you plan to go back to take? Do you plan to go back to start taking it sometimes in future, maybe?
I would say I took it about 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I, when you and I started the conversation prior to this talk, as I started remembering kind of what I got from the medication, I thought, oh, I probably could use that now. It would help. Yeah. And I think about it. I don't necessarily see myself going back. I will say a lot of it is because I do have a team now, and part of who I selected and how I selected to hire in my businesses were based on the skill set that I don't have. And so, why do I need to take it? We got it covered now. And so that's, that I don't see myself. But if I needed to, if I felt like it, let's say, with my relationship, which I love that you and your husband can go back and forth. My most recent relationship, which I've called him, my life partner, because we just kind of always have been there. And he's very OCD, and we understand that we're both, different, and we think different, and it works. Go ahead.
We have an incoming call. Let's take this real
Oh,
quick.
yes, let's do it.
Hi, this is the Neurodivergent Show. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Hi, my name is Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Yes. Hi, Kedra. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Quick question. You said that you are a CPA, and first of all, I just want to say, you're super. You guys are wonderful, and I've learned a lot today, based on everything you talked about. But in regards to what you do, is it possible for you to give us your information? Because you mentioned about taxes, you do taxes, you do a lot of things that I could see that you'd be a good advocate when it comes to, for folks, for everybody. So is it possible for you to share, you have a website where we can go to find your office, even got taxes, especially the taxes around? How do you get here?
Absolutely. It's Kedra, Kedra, flowers.com.
Kedra flowers.com.
Yes,
Yeah,
kedraflowers.com.
I got it.
All right, thank you. It's all about the money,
Wonderful.
money for Susan. But thank you
That's
so much.
right. Susan, where are you calling from? What
Go
what
ahead.
state?
What state are you calling from?
Dallas, Dallas, Texas.
Thank you.
Awesome. You can just Google
What-
me. You can just
Yes,
Google
Google
Kedra
her. You can.
Flowers.
Yes, ma'am. You can
Easy and
find her on Instagram. Can you tell us your Instagram handle as
yes.
well?
Yes, my Instagram, and it's a second website as well. It's Confidential Tax Relief, and it's through there that we do the settlements and those things as well. So either one of those, and they link back and forth to each other, all that good stuff that marketing people do. I'm pretty easy to find. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys are
Thank
doing a wonderful job. Have a good night.
thank you
You
so much.
too. Thank you.
You. Thank you for that call. Okay, so you can find her on Facebook, on YouTube, online. It's kedraflowers.com. Am I correct? And
That's
then
right.
on Instagram, it's you said confidential tax relief.
Confidential Tax Relief.
Confidential tax relief on Instagram. So what I'm
Yeah.
going to do is just beneath this video, I'm going to put all your links down so people can contact you, even beyond the show. Kedra, quickly, in
Awesome.
1 minute, you're going to come back on the show and you're going to come talk to us. I know there's certain things we didn't get to, but you have been a blessing today. Thank you so much. In
Mhm.
like 30 seconds, do you have like final words and stuff? So you run 1 hour runs by very fast. Do you have anything you'd like to say to all our listeners out there?
Yeah, someone just said this to me when I was concerned about someone very close to me who is neurodivergent, and they said, just love them. And so if I were to leave you with anything, it's just love, because that's what connects us. We are all different. Even if you take neurotypicals and you set them side by side, their brains work differently because we are all uniquely and wonderfully made. And that's what I'd like to leave with the audience.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. Love, be kind, be patient. The other person that doesn't act like you or behave like you, um, be kind to them as well and try to understand why they act the way they act and why they do what they do. This is the Neurodivergent Show. We want to appreciate everyone for texting, calling in today. Sarah is saying thank you for sharing your experience with us, Kedra. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, my husband. Shout out to our own Mr. Producer, my husband, who's always, behind the scenes making everything work out. A special thank you to you, Kedra. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. Thank you for sharing this part of yourself with us. Thank you to everybody who was called in, who was texted in. And if you've just watched, thank you. Sunny here says thank you. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Do not forget, we are live 7 p.m. Fridays, okay? 7 p.m. on the Neurodivergent Show. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so now. Subscribe, keep the comment going even after the show. We'll get back and just, chat up with you. Thank you so much. My name is Imo Folami. Have yourselves a very good evening. Good night, guys. Bye, Kedra. Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye. Thank you, Emo.
Thank you for all the beautiful comments. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, guys. Thank you.